Yo, what's here for another for your Hope for Life Radio? No, so good show with you. And said your brother be no financial peace education. And that's when you're ya dumb, yes, I be share be what the union and the beef, yes, I chain. And that's what my for cry. And the time could chew never near be so on a sunshine may. Near shade you made in I say. Said that we are making a practical teachings, but. So what full out him to obey why in Shirankasa. And the ancient who in and a fair ready the judge Medina mano, who bet me a retio Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, WhatsApp, baby adi, message in the Befebia Benya, na Edia Mano, na watch mama, was who bet my friend, a drew now the Wajenche, and I was sim bisaba. Mamma checking Nana Sotiminka.
The tongue capa, Otiminka.
I tongue capa and Yamiadum, and Tina Major Amo. Nadia Nanyame one so what the am I?
Yo, a tear for your boy, Patrik Barfi, Hope for Life Radio. There was some say share, yes, I see beam. Yamidi never be share beam. Neso, the Abeno, a Chimukakra. You say contract, things to consider on a contract before signing. We were casting a financial in Edna contract, the anything. And they say, a movie brew honoma, ya and shit. Contract, this animal near sign, especially to see a tot dying, a talk car. This animal will say, chin about her finances. It's you know, a baby near my, ya, a common, ye, I know. We did Mrs. Valerie Barfi her. Also, a friend saying certified professional or contract or expert or contracts. Tino, major man no at was so every ano. Tino, or be fan no. Okay. And Banchamun Tamukuchuma, she will batch away Jayano Sisi in Huye. In your one basis here, my 1 minute. Aha, 1 hour bano. We crown out him say, yea, okay, cry da. What is a making or bus or here Facebook, YouTube, out him say a problem now solve that. Or him, I am more quaba.
Medase. Good evening.
Good evening.
Patrik, I'll try Mama Trino Adoso. I'll try and mix it.
How they blending in our mind.
Okay. It's Anajri, we're near Yebekano. What we are going to discuss now. Things to look out for before signing a contract. So that is Enyama or say Woshe. Anas Enyama or say we are mindful of or pay attention to as I will be signing a contract. And many a times, some of us or in the Ghanaian community, say, signing idea, we don't read it. There's a saying that says, if you want to hide something from a black man, you put it in a book. It's not only as just the Ghanaian community, but when it comes to reading, sometimes we are not so diligent. It was our area anymore. And sometimes if you walk to house, read the whole contract. And one say the mawa now sign it. Sometimes indirectly you are signing your own quote unquote death certificate or putting yourself into some kind of legal future legal troubles. But because I won't read, if you maybe will avoid there, you sign it and then you have consequences about each way. So today we're going to do the main contracts are Yebeka and then employment contracts, housing contracts or mortgage contracts, and then a lease. What consigning lease and so what you have to look out for if you are or consigning lease our apartment are on share on with the one store call ya not was signing. The disadvantage to that, let's say when you do that, people can take advantage of you, right? And the Bible even says that because of lack of knowledge, my people perish. And so we all have to do our due diligence or say to protect ourselves. And I'm going to start. My mom, 1 second. Now I'm sharing my screen. Actually, mom, 1 second. I share my screen. Okay.
Or you might take good time, and they will have for you.
Okay. Patrik, move my screen. No.
Abana enyanye fu. Okay.
Now lower you. Patrik, move.
Hoa.
Can see.
About to say the whole show and just all caught way in Sana abafu amay.
Okay, Patrik, my mama.
Okay, you TV sign so I know when you're full amay.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Let's start with the first contract. So this is the main focus. Okay. So to say me can't before no, you better employment contract and then signing an apartment lease. Now say uko puti water dying so what you need to look for, and then putting your house up for sale. And then I don't think we'll have time say you no. But the first 3 in the year, we'll have the time now you to me. So the first one, a real estate contract. So real estate contracts, then they say, if you would agree with me, there are so many forms, so many papers are also filled. And sometimes also see the forms the mama won't share. And when I say the checkbox at all says signing, won't share. Also call na wako signing. So my goal at the end of the day, most of the terms in our real estate contract, legal terms, OB, and you may not understand. But the goal of this is to say, next time we want to say there are real estate contracts, at least you have an idea of the things to look out for. I'll explain just some basic things that you need to look out for. So when you try to buy a house, and I say, it's very important to say you understand all the conditions that are specified in the contract. Or say what's here. If you don't, because at the end of the day, you are the ones going to pay, right? Sometimes people who are real estate agents, no paying cards. So they will push you, sign it. They sometimes some of them may cut some money out, but they don't have your best interest, right? You wouldn't know, say, your best interest, more piano, or no, look out for no, so selfish and not money motivation. So when you're signing the contract, you say at the end of the day, you are the one that is going to pay that mortgage. So when to me, at the end of the day, your home is going to be foreclosed, and I said, when our credits ever bad. So you need to understand that. Don't be shy. Don't be scared to ask questions. Say, baby woman, ask the real estate agent or ask somebody. Say, just don't assume. Because it's your responsibility to make sure that you understand our contract. So when you are in a real estate contract, you'll be a friend of contingency clauses. So these contingency clauses are it's contingent upon something, right? These are certain things that if you are way unhappy and then way into me happy. So some of the contingency clauses, as it's on my screen, financing. So those are the main things also. Okay. Financing, home inspections, closing costs, the closing dates, and closing dates. Any baby, but these are the main ones that we'll be focusing on. So every contract, and I said most contracts don't have contingency clauses. Say it is assuming so be the home contract and a mortgage contract there to any man. The first thing, if I'm you to be looking out for, I'll go through it and see what it says about financing, see what it says about home inspections. Now my closing costs, what does it say? Closing dates. I'll look what it says as well. So the first one that we're going to be talking about is financing terms. So before you draw up your purchase offer, make sure you research the interest rate environment. And you know, and yes, some of us we don't even care about the interest rate, or we don't even understand the implications of the interest rate or what it means. You need to understand right now, you know, as we all know, there is inflation, right? And then interest rates are really high. And you need to consider the kind of environment that you are in. Say, interest rates now, it's something that you should be able to afford. Also, of course, we need cash, right? So you have to borrow the money from the bank. So we're purchasing offer, right, should be contingent upon obtaining financing at the interest rate. In the purchasing order, it should be contingent upon obtaining finance. That means that, like I said before, contingent means something needs to happen before something else happens. You know, that means that then it should mean that makes me out as long as bank no interest rate. So this point here, so when you want to me afford the monthly payment on the house. For example, if the interest rate of 6%, may push it for more than an interest rate of 6.5 on your offer. And yes, Anna, okay, so I want to, and yes, Anna, the seller will get to keep your earnest money, right? So the earnest money deposit is not yes, you put some amount of money, maybe sometimes it's a percentage of the house, right? 1% of the house, percentage of the house. What is that? Into that, it's a form of, let's say, down payment, right? Just to show your commitment. Say, okay, I'm going to go through the whole process. If at some point you back out of the contract now, then the real estate agent gets to keep that earnest money. Let's say, sorry, the owner gets to keep the earnest money. Yes, it's the owner. And let's say house bank is on of 6%. Make sure you are okay with that amount. Because bank rates, then later on you find out that the rate is too high. Now you want to back out of the contract. Owner to me, I can say, me for earnest money sometimes not only would they keep their earnest money, they can also sue you for additional charges, right? So let's say you are through the housing process, not better 2 months, 1 month of impression, say, oh, metal BBR. Then later on you decide to change your mind. They can say, I'm not going to give you your the earnest money. No, to me, charges say 2 months, preparations. So I could have given the house to somebody else, or sold the house to somebody else. But because woman is our commitment, I'm also going to charge you for that 2 months. When you homeowner in terms of the, in addition to the earnest money, so which me charge you additional charges. So we cannot say a mortgage contract. The first thing you have to look at is the financing terms, and make sure the financing terms is something that you can afford or you can be willing to pay. Then next one that you see. So right now, when you're looking at contract, financing terms, at least for now, based on what I've said, it gives you an idea of what it means. The other thing that you have to look out for is the seller assist, right? That's another term that you see in the contract. If you want the seller to pay for part of all of your closing costs, also will be sat in the offer. It's in the offer. A baby starts an open seller if pay for closing costs now. You can ask, even if it's not in, you can ask. One good thing about a contract is that contracts can always be modified, right? So do not be afraid to speak up. The amount of contracts we now won't say it won't suit you. You never be afraid to ask. Would the seller pay for your closing costs? You should ask for it. So closing costs, no expenses now. Yeah, the expenses about the property price that both the buyers and the sellers pay to execute the deal. So when you put in a concession for a seller assist, you are asking the seller to cover some of these additional expenses. So like the word says, no, a self-explanatory, right? Seller, any assist. So that means you are asking for help from the seller, which is in the closing cost, right? Asking the seller, say, wow, namuntia closing cost. If you want to sell it, say, okay, I'll give you 10,000 for the closing cost, and I'll make it to me about 5,000. Obviously, wait to me, I say, means your closing cost in the crowd. What's your closing cost? So when you're seeing now, when you see financing terms, you have an idea of what that means. If you see seller assist to her, that one also gives you an idea of what it means. So the seller assist to sell credit, like I said before, no, the seller will agree to absorb some of the costs. So sometimes like I said, no, a buyer also may be willing to pay a little extra. And say if you are closing costs in your 13, buyer needs to say, okay, well, my 10, now means my 3. And then it's a negotiation, right? So a contract, no, the definition contract, no, it's not who won, right? It's not say, okay, I won or you lost, no. But the main point of a contract negotiation is that when you come to an agreeable term, right? An agreeable term that the other party or both the other party is willing to sign the contract. And yes, one person wins or one person loses. The main point is say, "Obia be okay." Namu sign a contract, no. So so the offer should say the closing cost. So you are requesting as the dollar amount. So $6,000. The offer in the mortgage in the mortgage contract, it should say in it say ABR $6,000 or as a percentage, and as a 3% of the house. So there should always be a number, right? There should always be a numerical value. And say who signing who documents no not say closing cost ABR dash. And I said she in patcho men signing bisa say is there closing cost, and I say is there not going to be closing cost? Always ask, okay? The other thing is who pays specific closing costs. So the agreement should specify whether the buyer or seller is the one paying for the common fees associated with the home purchase. Into escrow fees, title search fees, the insurance, notary fees, recording fees. You should ask why. You should ask why not easier. Don't just assume say seller no nebetia, and I said don't just assume say una ubetia bisa who ubetia. The other important thing when it comes to the sale of houses, home inspections. So this home inspection is very important in a real estate contract. There are certain clauses and it say once I will comment to me and you will frame. But with home inspection, it allows you to work from the deal if the home reveals a significant or any repair be affected a dining condition. Ube to me at the home inspection I walk it out of the contract. But as usual, depending on the state where you live in, different states have different laws on home inspections. But in most states, you can base the home inspection to work out on a deal. And that's the same thing. Say, signing and I say, we're signing mortgage, Not say who be in the house, and I say home inspections never out. Maybe I can say, okay, a foundation issue. To me, you see that to work out of the deal. Okay, you are not obligated once because home inspection is a big thing, right? Until you are not obligated to sign it. Until if they find something wrong, if they find something wrong with the house now, you can if there's an issue with a home inspection now, you are not obligated to buy the house. You can always work out on the deal. If you can say, okay, the house has a foundation issue. I'm working out of the deal. I don't want to do it anymore. Now seller can say, okay, if you are fix amount, and now so I can say, okay, maybe 20,000 off of the house. Now me fix it side issue no more finding if the seller does not want you to work out of the deal. When you are reading to the one thing you should be mindful of is say make sure say it has an there's a home inspection contingency in your offer. Also, the home inspector, usually, we are home inspector and we're walking through the property. Now, we're examining it to see, like I said, if there are any structural problems or damages there. If they can't find any damages, and if they cannot access the damage or if they can't see what it is, they might recommend another inspector who specializes in a certain field to come into the home. So some of the issues may be very electrical, and that's a pest, and that's a lead-based paint inspectors. It just depends. So I'm going to make figure it out. I'm going to make my other specialists and so abeshe. So the other one is fixtures and appliances. And if you want, so open fridge, dishwasher, stove, oven, washing machine, or any appliances and our fixtures don't assume, right? If sometimes we'll call you walk through all the house, we will say fridge, we will say washing machines, or we will say stoves. Don't assume say the person is going to sell it in the house for you, right? So do not rely on a verbal agreement with the seller, and then don't assume anything. So in your contract, your real estate contract must specify any additions that are negotiated, such as fixtures and appliances that are to be included in the purchase. Any appliances or say including it should be in the purchase. No, it has to be in the contract. Don't just assume say, oh, my today and the fridge, no washing machine is and see, so one yes, and saying any contract, you not say, what dining room now say, the paponage in your fridge, we in the stove, we in a light, do not be surprised. If it's not stated in the contract there, obey to me because that fixtures and appliances was not agreed on. And since a sign here, make sure say fixtures and appliances and also if the same goes the other way, so who dine so make sure say fixtures and appliances and sign money so what the back home and put it in the contract as well. The other thing is the closing dates. Hold on 1 second. My screen is not echo fast. So the other thing too is the closing dates. So sometimes buyer and asset seller may want a closing date as 2 weeks. And but a bad thing, it's difficult to remove all the contingency and then obtain all the necessary paperwork within a short time. Into closing time, because you have to go through the banks, the inspections, into 2 weeks there, it's very short. And to closing dates, so make sure say the closing dates that is going to work for you, right? So the holdups, like I'm saying, it's not the buyer or the seller, but if you are setting bottlenecks within the bank, the lender, or the other writers or the lawyers, make sure you sign a mortgage contract. That's it. Closing dates, no mama 2 weeks that alone should raise a red flag, right? Because you know that that's too short. That is not something that is doable. That's not something that is realistic. And like I said, terms, you can always negotiate. A moment with 60 days now to me who said 60 days is not something that is going to work out. You can always ask Ebisa for additional time. The other thing too is sale of existing home, and also real estate contracts. So that means say if you are an existing home owner, right? Let's say you go or die at dada, right? Not say your plan. Let's say die now would is a down payment for the new house that you are going into. That also needs to be in the offer, right? So you should make your purchase offer contingent upon the sale of your current home. It's in the real estate contracts, and so make sure say a home. So who are dying, not say we plan to say me turn die way. Not me turn me old house new year. Say can I mean na me the new one and so now. Make sure say that is also in the offer. You should provide a reasonable time frame for you to sell your old home, such as 30 days, 60 days. And time I will dream over to me at home dying and also you have to put it in the contract. The seller of the property you are interested in is not going to want to take their property off the market indefinitely while you search for a buyer. Sometimes which is good, which is true, which is realistic. The person now who turn it down free On to main 20 say, for example, 6 months, not say 1 ton, 1 dia, 1 ton, 1 dia. That person is not going to wait, right? But woman who say, okay, 30 days, within 30 days, meton me die, within 60 days, meton me die. Then if that is okay with him, Ono be agree that okay, fine, I'm going to wait for you for 30 days, or I'm going to wait for you for 60 days. But don't assume say me catch and say me turn me down, not to be trained. It should also be in the contract. So that's for the sale of existing home. So Cecilia, Mama, more high level of the real estate contracts, and then the basic things that you need to look out for. And see, moving forward, at least the real estate contractor, you know the main things, like I said, home inspection, or that's a big thing. Financing terms, and so no, that's a big thing. Appliances, new fixture, that's a big thing that you need to look out for. And then the sale of existing homes. There are other things too that you can look out for, but these are the main contingency clauses. One of the main and important contingency clauses. The other contracts are employment contract. And so many times, and so no, say amount for echo job offer na the employment contracts, no terms, no conditions, sometimes no, why you're so excited to get a job that you don't even read. And not say yeah, hi, you just go on your first day of training, sign here. Now I'll sign it. Later on, if an issue comes up, then you're trying to fight it, but it all goes back to the contract. 1 year with due diligence to read what your employment contract said. Typical example, ABR, employment contract, and say they can call you anytime, right? It's on call. And I say, even though they are hiring you for 8 hours, no, sometimes you bet me for 10 hours, baby, I need to. And I say, you need to overtime. ABR now, I'm just giving an example. Now, if you're not getting what you're doing, and I say, I hire with Juma say, be cleaning tables, right? By ABI in the contract, Rebecca will say, yeah, hire will say be cleaning tables, but sometimes no, Rebecca say cleaning chairs. By ABI, when we decide our Juma, and when we decide, and I say, when we decide our contract, into we as you're doing the job, now you can't say be cleaning chairs now won't wait for. But you forget, say, ABI in the contract, it was written, say, even though we have hired you to clean the tables, you are also expected to clean the chairs. And I'm going to go over. So job and a job title and description. So you want to make sure that your contract reflects the role you believe you are offered, both nominally and narratively. And your job title might not seem to be quite something to quibble over, but it's important for you for representing yourselves and your colleagues, external parties, and future employees. It's not all contracts feature a description, but if yours does, make sure it's not too limited and I say any too general. So job contract need too broader. And a bit to me, like I'm saying, if your job contract to say say we are hiring you as a cleaner, right? That is a very broad contract. That is a very broad job description, right? Cleaner, if it's like I say, co-cleaning bathroom, co-cleaning kitchen, co-cleaning bedroom, but make sure say it's specific. We are hiring you to clean the kitchen. We are hiring you to clean the bedrooms. We are hiring you to clean the offices, right? International job description. One thing to look out for is say make sure it's not too broad. So job description or a broader. Ask questions, right? Always do not be afraid to ask. So so make sure a very broad description can give your employer leeway. A broad is some big employer no advantage, right? To take advantage over you. Your objective is to feel comfortable, right? That's the main rule. So we better enjoy the job. That is indeed the role you believe you have been offered. And there's nothing in the title or description that will be limiting you. And to make sure, say, you read the job title, the job description, what your role is, what your responsibility is. If the job title and I said description are too broader, like I always say, main sure say will be bizarre questions. The other thing also we're looking out for is salary, benefits, any bonuses. And so make sure say on your contract, make sure that make sure the salary on your contract is the one you negotiated. And I don't know if the many times we don't negotiate our salaries, right? And when they say we'll hire you, $20, and also I can say okay, Meji. Do not be afraid to ask. what you say, they really like you, omupel, and intiana, or more high. And yes, sir, you can say amount $20, then you say, oh, Meji, I feel we pay Jumane, so now we say, it's your amount for 27, it's your amount for 29, it's your amount for 30. Nothing will wait. But you did not negotiate your salary. You just went with whatever they gave you. And you know, say employer and I said, because mind you know, some more customer more $20. In their mind, you know, they have budgeted between $25 to $30, right? Thinking say, want to so over negotiating, and then maybe you all meet halfway at 25. And the amount 25 now. Always ask for more. Bisa say, oh, the amount 20 now, bet me bisa. Move to me 25, move to me 29. What I say, move to me 30. Almost know why you always work with them, right? And yes, say Uber asking for higher needs, you know, say, oh, you invite you money now. Also, if you are in the interview, you know, and as I'm free, well, bet me I say, oh, maybe job description is 20, but maybe per 25 is negotiable, right? So let the people know say me able to me and negotiating. And no mom to me besides say is negotiable. But say my way Jumana, paying them out, I would always advise say ask for more. Do not be afraid. Ask for more. Bet to me tia or mobile catch you. So to me ain't tia so mobile catch you. Do not be afraid. Maintain say your fire will be because say obisa for a more money during negotiations. So your contract should contain the details for the provision and payment of other agreed remuneration expenses, like, and you know, some here for pensioner, it should be in your contract. Some here for car, it should be in there. With healthcare, it should be in there. With 401k and with bonuses, if the job comes with any bonuses and as a commission and so it should be in the contract. And see, if you are a performance based, right? If yours is performance based, that make sure it's very clear what objectives or targets need to be met. Into performance-based contracts, the performance-based salaries and our benefits, I'm gonna say, okay, what you be increase will pay by let's say $3 every year. And as a woman meet certain goals, you be increase will pay by maybe $10, right? So yes, and if your job description is performance-based, make sure say we immediate supervisor. Just don't take that, okay, and they may because that is so broad, right? One person's to you who feels that you are going above and beyond, but the person might not see it that way. So if it's broad, if it's performance based, and I can say, okay, ask them at the end or say me, right? Or at the end or say me, if the manager can say, okay, we take it up more hours, we to me take it up more hours within 3 months, and I say, we to me training will be, and I say, we'll be Juma every day, and I say, what else? We'll be Juma every day, one back if you are not late to work, right? So if it's performance based, when you have your one-on-ones with your directors or with your immediate supervisors, ask them, say, at the end, I meet to me, and then always ask for feedback. Do not be scared. Always ask for feedback from your immediate supervisors. Ask them, what can I do? How is my performance? Even if it's not any time for performance review, maybe say, how is my performance, or what can I do to be better? Okay, you can always do that. And then if your contract refers to separate policies on any of these items, you are perfectly entitled to request a copy of these documents before you sign. And to know documents open copy. Now wait to me, you give yourself some time to go and read it and sign it. Let me go. So the next one, hours and location of work. So the other things in this say, also will double check it say, hours now a what contracts is what you are expecting to work, and that you are happy to accept them. It's say 8 hours no more expected say you have to work 8 hours now. 8 hours now or more expected say you have to work make sure say it's in the contract. Say 10 hours, say 12 hours, and make sure. The other thing too you have to do is say check the policy on overtime. So just don't assume, right? Say you have overtime. Ask the company or ask your supervisor or your HR, say, what is the overtime policy? And then look for the ominous will be expected to work then necessary hours to complete the task assigned. It's making sure say the time I get the amount of so ubet to me aye. So sometimes this means your employer will expect starts and late finishes, right? In Abia, based on a Jumana wo and Abiana, you can't complete it within the 12 hours or say Wobantem. And I say Jumana the amount is so much say sometimes no, or say you have to leave late. Sanya manyamani nano, or say wo ask if you're not up for that and your contract says something else along those lines, you might want to seek clarification. And you know, so we read the employment contracts, no, not say BB woman, not say won't like I'm saying, ask questions, right? Ask for clarification or reassurance. And now, so we'll be sound so make sure to ever throw in writing for your own record keeping, so that later no one can say, oh, maybe sir, my director and a. But what do you have to prove, say, okay, by ABI, if it's in writing, if it's through an email, you can always refer to say, hey, and yet saying I'm money me saying now okay. In terms of the location, you have to make sure say the location, the office location and description of travel and overnight or overseas matches your expectations, right? Into making sure say a BB travel time easily accessible. A baby also ube to me your rights to a redundancy payments could be adversely affected if you refuse to work in a new location, having previously agreed in your contract to do so. And like I'm saying with the location, make sure say a baby ube to me and yes, a 4 or 5 hours away. Now you catch us a 4 or 5 hours away. Now if you want to say, oh, mean to me and I say, Ewa, you already agreed, say, this job comes with travel, you are willing to travel, and I say, easily accessible. And make sure, say, in terms of the location and travel, ni bibiano, bibi will be to me, and yes, I you went do the job, and then when they are asking you to travel, or you call and then saying, oh, I don't have a ride, or the buses doesn't come there, to me, you say, and no, they are fire. And then the last thing is that take a look at the start date and end date. If it's a contractor, Juma, check it, a date now starting on anytime I end it to check they are correct and double check in terms of your notice. It is ABI 8 months contractor. Make sure say ABI on 6 months. It starts from January and then it ends in June. Make sure you check those things. Into you yourself know what sign the contract, you don't know when the contract ends. Then the contract is 6 months, and then in the 7th and 8th month you are still working, and then if you're not getting paid that, you don't understand, right? But technically, no, ideally, your contract ended 6 months ago. The other thing that you have to look for in also or employment contracts, holidays, sick leave, and then death in service. So when it comes to holidays, now you want to check out their holidays and type which holidays are you are entitled to, right? It's check and say maybe a Christmas Day, a of Thanksgiving, of check all those things. Labor Day, so will be offer, so that you don't run into a situation where say maybe a Christmas Day now your friend say or say we now I can say a Christmas Day mean to member. To me, you see that as a basis to terminate you or make you redundant, right? So make sure say you check the holidays. A holiday be Easter. Some companies say Easter say or be to me I can say you chuma. So you'll be not say Easter be a necessary say or say sorry. You have to check that too if it's, and then ask if they don't give Easter offer, you would ask them to give it to you. You ask in advance if you can have that day off. And I say if Saturday number to me excuse you. So your contract should also tell you if there are any restrictions and around the holidays. Into, for example, certain companies insist on hours being saved. Into certain companies, so to me I can say Christmas ma off. To me I can say Christmas ma off. She said, wow, will you see wow time off? To me I can say Christmas ma off. But if you want off on Christmas Day, she said, wow, will you see PTO? Why will you see what time at the share every Christmas? But they will not pay you for Christmas, right? It is you have to look and be watchful. Also will pay attention to. The other thing is also a sick leave, right? That means if also would take your time off, say what area. So that one is subject to the local law, but the process of informing your employer no will be in your contract. So sick leave and so no able to impact your contract, right? To say termination, working hours, and notice period. Into, for example, sick leave, they say in your contract, and it will say, okay, if you want to take a sick leave, give us 2 days. Sometimes sick, they're sick. There are days that you can call off. You have to find out what the calling off policy to is, right? Sometimes you may be back as a person will call it off, you have to call a day before, or you have to call 2 hours before your shift time. You have to call up 3 hours before your shift time. All these things you need to be mindful of before you sign the contract. The other one, a death in service policy, might not seem a big consideration, but it's also useful to pass this information on to a partner or dependent, just in case anything should happen. And that is also in relation to ABS saying, nipa poni ewu on the job now. What is the benefits, and now what is the process around that? And so in terms of finances, insurance, anything related to the job, I'll be passing on to the family. And you also is something that you have to look out for in your employment contract. So the other one is restrictive clauses and covenants. It's where certain clauses are a bit restrictive in terms. I'm just giving an example. It's like, okay, don't work with our competitor, right? It's going to mean, and I say, want to mean, Ejuma Emma Burger King. So you need to be mindful of those things. Then you are and you would be upset or you would not understand why, but you forget say ABI in your contract now it was stated in. Sometimes company no matter say do not work for the same company within 20 miles of this area or within 10 miles of this area. Sometimes even in some companies say once you leave our job you cannot work for the same in the same industry area for the next 6 months or for the next 7 months. Why the companies do this, I know sometimes to say, for example, it's just an example that I'm giving. Say, McDonald's, Wendy's. No, sometimes the companies have these restriction policies, no, because almost on protect you. McDonald's on person Wendy's na fe with the McDonald's recipe no and I say McDonald's ingredients no send your McDonald's no quote unquote who's stealing intellectual property from McDonald's now with the comma and Wendy's. And so you need to be mindful of these things as well. So like I'm saying, you need to be carefully read the details. It's so sign any restrictive policies you need to read it. So when you read to me, you see that as termination to fire you. To me, it's me as basis for termination. To me, the international now, fire you. Fire you. Also, now someone making sure say and impacting any future job opportunities. And to say the American sometimes to me are working for a company. No matter say, you can work for any other company. Maybe a company no make ice cream, right? I'm just giving an example. No matter say when you jai juma, to me any other ice cream company and you juma for the next 1 year. You have to make sure because if they find out to me it's you. So you have to make sure and then companies have a way of finding out. All they just have to do is put your name in Google your name. Nowadays with social media and the internet, it's so easy to find out where people work. It's if there's such a restrictive clause, you have to make sure say you are okay with it, right? It's not going to restrict you. It's if you're okay working for an ice cream company and then after you leave for the next 1 year, you can't work for any other ice cream company if that is not going to affect your career goals and as our career development. You should be okay with it as well. So many of these are industry standard clauses, but don't assume this is the case and make sure you've read the finer details. And like I'm saying, make sure say we'll be reading. So next time we read the employment contract, you can look who restrictive clauses and covenants are based on what I've said. At least you have an idea that okay, it means it's gonna tell me what I can do or what I cannot do whilst I'm me juma, and I say me free juma na baby I mean to me ediomo juma, and I say baby I mean to me efa omo enye juma. So the final one make me talking about a rental lease agreement. So the rental lease agreement and a contract between a landlord and a tenant. It's allow the tenant to lease or rent the landlord's property for a specified amount of time. It's over renting property, let's say apartment complex, for certain amount of time for under certain conditions, right? So the rental lease agreements landlord a lessor, so lessor. It's in the reading rental lease agreement, not the lessor. That means they are referring to the landlord, and then the renter or tenant is the leasee. It's lessee. That means wo nindi papa or refer it to, and can be used for different properties in American, so either apartments or condominium. It's a reading as a lesser. Anything in the statement and in the agreement that is lesser then it's referring to the landlord. If it says leasing let's just say a wo renting and I say wo be sign this agreement. No, you are the person that I referring to. So the lease spell out the obligations of both the landlord and the tenant. Obligations then say as best spell it out idea landlord or say oh yeah, and then idea tenant or say oh yeah, the tenant is you into the idea also oh yeah. It's to say maintenance say the leasing agreement will say that's one thing you have to look out for. That's one thing I also wish to share. Say baby say a meme responsibility and I say a landlord no responsibility, and then look for the things that a responsibility and I say a landlord no responsibility. Sometimes in the contract a bit me I can say okay, say microwave say a leasing no responsibility, and I say major things say to say fridge and I say shower and I say pipe be bursting is going to say you won't sign here. One of the things to look out for and to say who is responsible for maintenance. To say if you are current, if you are townhouse now, maintenance, find out or say a door around the area, say a landlord need responsibility, and I say your responsibility. That's something that you also will pay attention to. And then changes to the property, into if the landlord will allow it. And then the most important thing is say how either party can terminate the lease. Terminate the lease, and not yet how the lease will end. And you also have to make sure say the lease so end there. If you want to end the lease before the time now, right? Fine. How many days notice is needed? Say a 30 days, a 60 days, and I say a 90 days. Are you going to get your security deposit back? All those things should be in the agreement. Say anima, like I'm always saying, bisa. And then termination of the lease, and so it's gonna state say landlord no bet me a terminate lease and I say wo bet me a terminate lease and also so will be stated in there. Say any monso swa ubebisa or say ubisa. The lease agreement especially out to say I can, as I've said before, the obligations, that means nyama or say landlord any tenant or more who is responsible, changes into me person me change BB on the property. Also you have to make sure say the landlord is going to be okay with it or you're allowed to do that. And yes, wako now wako painting fee and wako change the color of the house. Ebia wako painting room ni blue, wako painting the green. Ebia later no landlord no able to me is we can see you able to me see we will for it. And I said obey to me too if you feel because there was no agreement, right? Or maybe in the lease, and to say, well, yes, sir. So the other thing to look out for is to say, the rent term and monthly amount, and then the rent amount. So most monthly lease agreements, for 1 year. sometimes no a shorter obi betumi aye 18 months obi betumi aye 6 months ebi so then a month to month. And then your monthly rent amount should be spelled out clearly. Into the amount I will be for rent every month and so no or will say a what lease no emu. Into no if there are any charges or say lease no so estate if there are any late charges say when you are on time and you know if you don't pay on time say if they say the late charge is going to be if the late charge is $50 it should be stated in the contract. And you're saying you didn't check, there's nothing in there. Also one check it, maybe I say okay, pay a late fee of $80 and not later on one theater and I say it becomes an issue. So make sure say if there are late charges if it's not in the contract, I say what is the late charge and I say bisa say omofa and shame. So you might be charged sometimes when me are charging a flat late charge and an additional daily fee. It's it's when you know so or say we're checking. Sometimes on me I say you charge $25 flat rate, and every day I won't see be another $10 every count. So that one is also no. You have to pay attention to that as well. So if there's any ambiguity behind it, if BB woman not say any clear on the monthly rent and I say how long the lease is versus what has been communicated verbally, bisa landlord no to put the key terms into writing. It's maybe sometimes maybe for example, we lease no 6 months, right? Maybe we lease no 1 year. After 1 year, no we per se we extend the lease, no right? Maybe our friend landlord say, oh landlord, me per se me extend the lease, and our landlord that can say okay. Just don't go by the verbal agreement, okay? Make sure say the landlord now agree say or best extended by 1 year. Make sure it's in writing. Now also assigning. Don't just assume say oh landlord now can say 1 year into no make me at now for 1 year. Or kasa now say maybe 4 or 5 months later oba no can say 2 now I can say oh but okay me say I can stay for 1 year. No can say man kasa you don't have anything in writing to prove say okay and I say one car. It's anything beyond a landlord never can. And then this goes the other way to say also will rent or dying I'm open so any agreements, any concessions that you make, no, make sure say it will writing. So we are just continuing. Patrol, any questions, Sana? So far, I can't be but there were questions about 818. It's a patrol.
Questions there everywhere.
Oh, and
it is a Obama. Number so we are so okasa wiaza. Asana ye dey ba Them so wakasa more meaning say ya emma numra before that. Okay, nana. Aye, mama recognizing the panibia or money yesia de Ernest nyamisha so waka nana a champion. Cecil also Frederick and Obrinya kon was this nyamisha so waka Ebenezer or say Hollis Benjamin Comfort Pra okay charming what other name media this me pay muti obedience Ebenezer and I do when you nyamisha say makan ho na money esua de nana nyamisha and say one my opportunity among him so abeboy and then kakakra bi ko fire time ni nyina question is how more eti de obetimi answer my bia we so mo so obetimi afre and I will send it ba say the amount for the abana mebusa na wa answer amai well, the first question obi dear mama hanum about was say usteti word be about okay Lisa and then Lisi was it how many times or renter him but who the meaning to just like or signing okay was obetimi explaining and so amana
it's lesser no LESSOR no right into who say ending in OR, right? That means say it's referring to the landlord, no. Into no so who signing list now say the lessor agrees to pay for all maintenance. Then that means say it means the landlord.
Yes.
And then leasing, LESSE, into who say ending with OR. then that means no a landlord no a leasee. I said fiancé, right? Into then that means a wo the tenants no and no a leasing. Into say who reading contracts no and I will reading leasing agreement. Let's see anything leasee. Into whom baby say leasee is expected to pay their rent first of the month now. Then who leasee now, then that means it's referring to who will rent a property no.
Wow.
And I would no.
Wow.
And I said, wow, bet na no.
Well, Fred, me so why you okay? My next question, and so about employment contracts. No, where the question is usually, for instance, it be a juma year file no, overshare application be a state say a bit 50,000 to 70,000 a year, but after interview and everything, they say straight away say they will give you 50,000 a year. Is it possible so bet me and negotiate because usually say the unim the Ghanaian community no o so be negotiate na yaka say adwuma no cry yam farmer. What are the postures and I say what do you have to do to get increment since you know the exact amount all for the application?
Me and Kasa, I specialize in contract negotiations. And when it comes to negotiations there, next time I can do a way on contract negotiations. But most of the time, the funny thing, what should you do with internet? So indeed, sometimes Metro say 50 to 70K in the grandpa. Most of the time, you can always ask for more.
Okay.
It's 70K in the crowd to me are asking for 80K because just recently me who a dreamer, I was just searching for no reason. And I mean who a dreamer be. And amount no more there to hono. I asked for 20,000 more. And I'm catch him say, yeah, the bema, if you are willing to do XYZ, yeah, the bema. I said, okay, that's fine. If you're much of 50 to 70K, do not be afraid to ask. If I'm you, come much of 50 to 70K, I will ask for 75. Always ask for the highest amount, okay? Because the men should say, ubisa more, yeah, farmer. Because the worst thing they say, ube show, na ube can say, yeah, mommy 50K. Na fe uba koye juman na ube who say ebia the person below you crampono
They make you more money.
Yes, Anna, you become very discontented in the job. There's a lot of animosity. There's a lot of anger. And I wouldn't you akume cry and
Yep.
If it says 50 to 70K, always ask for the highest amount. If they can't give you they would negotiate and say, okay, Ebema 65, and I say Ebema 68, but always do not be afraid to negotiate, okay? And then know your worth, right? Know your value. Don't be scared. There's gonna be somebody else who is willing to even pay you more than that 70K. They be and I know say in our community, I can't 50 to 70K, I am paying one sem, we will go for the 50. No, always go for the highest amount. If the amount is too high, they will let you know, say it's too high. Meet us halfway, okay?
Wow. My next question. Where you say usually most of the agreements are written in a fine print. Okay, the person says I say usually agreement be bro only in the fine print until cry kind of boring for you to so ube squeeze your eyes say ube read the whole thing. What is the best way? Those fine print ube to me
Fine print it's a reason why they put it in fine print. If I were you, Crampona, I'll be more mindful of the ones in fine print because I know no much on the kids but I know it's the most important one because they are too hot because most people will be lazy and will not want to read it. That's why they always say what to read the fine print. To me, the fine print is even more important. And take your time, take your time. Also be the contract be mouth and now the documents be mouth. Now you can't make a decision right there or you need more time to read it out. Let them know, even with a job offer, right? Sometimes in our Ghanaian community, the job offer, they call you, hello, Mr. Barfi, you've gotten this job. Oh, we are so excited. I accept it. Send you a dinner, now I sign it. No,
yes.
You don't do that. You don't do that. When they give you the contractor, sometimes they'll tell you if it's an employment contract, they'll say, okay, you have up till the 30th to respond. Let them, even if they don't give you a date, tell them to give you some time to think about the offer. And yes, you can't say, hey, not watching. No. Get some time, or you can ask for the documents again. You can ask for the job description again. take your time and then read. So if you have a documenter, if you need additional time, 2 or 3 days to read the fine printer, ask them, send me a copy and then give me 2 or 3 days to read. And then always ask somebody, right? Fine print, no say, it's just that. You can just copy and paste and then put it on Word and then make it bigger. Which may expand the fonts, no? And then you take your time and read. But what I'll say is there's a reason why it's in fine print, because they want you, especially with these car notes and then phone things, right? It's fine print because they know nobody has time for it. But that's where the most important things you need to look out for are in.
Oh, hey, mama, me had a personal question today. Also, if you are more Israel, Ubakona, or more the check mark at all, a highlight pen, or say sign her. You don't even have time to read those things.
So nobody, unless this is a typical example I can give, unless the person has not put a gun to your head,
right,
and you are not signing the thing under duress, nobody can force you. And then one thing to say, people are very smart too. Wow, from your demeanor and from the way that you, especially this, I'm not bashing anyone, but ABI, what I say, car person or no person making the sales.
Yes.
It's who buy in a crown from Senawaya and Mobo, as a who drew environment, then all of a sudden you are humbled. Into who crowd corner crampon home popo. Into your bisan won't enter now. The person knows say, hey, this person is easy prey. I can easily take advantage of this person and then get my commission. Into your sign. No, you walk in with confidence. Like I said, at the end of the day, percentage you are the one who is going to be having sleepless nights thinking about how to pay. So take your time. Sign her. If it's going to take you, or you can tell the person, can you give me time, or can you leave the room whilst I get time to read it, or can you go and do other stuff whilst I get time to? So always ask for the time. Do not let anybody pressurize you to sign a contract under duress. Sign her. Take your time, read it word for word, because legally you're doing your due diligence, and then that's the right thing that you're supposed to do.
Wow, thank you. Okay, where is it say? Is it advisable to seek a professional or a legal person advice before signing a contract? And if so, is there any number or what? How do you find a legal person to assist you signing for contract?
So it depends on what type of contract it is, right? Sometimes it can be a lease, sometimes it can be unemployment. Since I say employment, employment contractor, you can just Google unemployment lawyer. You can Google unemployment lawyer. It will give you a list. Most of the time, if it's just for the person to read a document, on charging much, maybe $200, $300, on charging much. If it's something that has to do with real estate and so, and that's a one TRCI, you just go online, Google real estate lawyers in my area. And then sometimes you can just copy and paste whatever the thing says and then put it in Google. It will give you the answer, okay? So for example, how many days do I need to let my landlord know in the state of Virginia, right? How many days do I need to let my landlord know if I want to break the lease? Type it in Google. How many days do I have to know? So whatever it is, like I always say, Google is my best Google is the first thing that you can do. Also, check from different sources, right? And yes, I will call you one place, now when you answer, check other places to see, say, it's the same thing that they are doing now. So my answer to that is it depends on the type of contract it is. If it's related to employment, I'll be to me employment lawyer, immigration, signing, so. If it has to do with car loans, so I think they are depending on what type.
But me add the these days, the way when you say, when you go online now, there are so many places. You go come near lawyer crown, but they can do it for you for a small fee, especially more Asia when you don't know. This time when you're starting, all you have to do is say, if you say ABBA or sign a year, but me go be a $50 and maybe sir. Maybe I can a or car. Na car no cost to be a $40,000, $50 per be a baby, most yen you should now coin fast my bread. It's near be a lawyer crowd be tua kesi bebree. You say ayi for no Pakistan is new way no. Uko ha obinya bebree, uko online obinya bebree. We just will review keke amount. No appoint baby a ayi way no. Ombe am quick. Yeah.
But the other things are also add and say a legal issue and so there. Then if you want to be safe there, so if you want to be safe there, meaning that's what any lawyer will tell you. And say get legal advice, because if you're in a different country, right? It's the laws in that country might not necessarily be applicable, but either way, no. And also, so like we are saying, the internet is your best friend to get all that information and help that you need.
Wow, thank you so much. Oyema, also thank you so much for such a wonderful education. My question is about security deposit. Almost like every year I have to relocate or rent a different place, and I've been losing all my security deposit due to such things. What is the best way that I can secure my security deposit?
So it will be in the contracts, no, right? So if you are losing, so security deposits, most of the time, I'm they talk, right? Say if you follow all these things that is listed in it, then they will seek a ebema back. If you keep losing it, then that means say you are not reading the contract and you are not doing yama or say like the example that I gave me. The contract and my said don't paint your wall blue. Now we could paint here. Oh no, but wait me, I can say. Oh, buy no now one your white, and I will change it to blue into the medisasticano medicoye. So the best way to avoid losing your security deposit is that make sure you read the terms and conditions if you are renting the place out, what and what you cannot do, so you can get your security deposit back.
Wow, thank you so much. The other one, so okay. Where so there is about financial terms. So what is the difference? The interest rate and very important, and I say the dollar amount.
It doesn't really make a difference as long as there's an amount there, right? So there were, I think he's referring to, I think I had two slides, right? Say Bakono can say the percentage of the interest rate, and then I think one had to do with the earnest money.
Right.
So I'm saying we'll confuse two things. The earnest money, no, yeah. Let me see. I don't know if my interest me to go back to slide now. So the earnest money, no, and then earnest money, no, before you sign the contracts, no, right? Before we sign some mortgage contracts, no, you put some money down, and then make some sort of like down payment. Sometimes it's like $2,000, $3,000. They go with a percentage of the house, saying, I'm committed to this contract, right? I'm committed to buying the house. It's if for some reason, in the as the process is going, maybe you decide say I don't want the house anymore now, you will not get your earnest money back. It's the earnest money, and it always has a numerical value. If I'm better to pay an earnest money of $2,000, and I say pay an earnest money of $6,000, so that's stated in, which is just like some commitment fee to say I'm going to go through the end of this contract. And see if anything happens, not say we change, you might not say we pay so back it out, then the buyer no ebe keep some money. And then like I said before, sometimes we bring some buyer be crampona. When you back out of the contract, in addition to the earnest money, no, obey to me charge other stuff, and at the percentage, the interest rates, no, right? So the interest rates, no, and that one is coming from the bank. How much they can give you? And I mean, my example, they say, bank, like you have to be mindful of the current the environment that we are in right now. And to say, interest rates are high. Interest rates are high. Now, if we decide this, maybe a bank now interest rates be maybe 7%. Then you come back to the buyer and then tell the buyer, say, okay, interest rates are too high. And as a bank, I'm 7%. I want to back out of the contract. BB saying, no, you have to do your due diligence. BB saying, no, buyer and also bet me a hold bet me or use that against you, right? So it's your responsibility to make sure say interest rates need be is something that you can afford or something that you are okay with it. And the interest rates air coming from the bank, and then the earnest money is that commitment fee now what they took on from you. would they to her say, I'm agreeing or I'm willing to go through with this deal.
Wow. Wow, okay. We just say and the woman lesson I feel no what I did so many years. Or taught in the house about the features and appliances no. When omuko fi na sa nyo mani nyina ho it no nim say e be ne dia but after closing coin later owner ne the car be sure say or be sisa de nti he was arguing say no ono say any contract him but na o ma san awie ama bibia nti in this case am for some fan court and o say enye hwe o njai no onko because abrofu we de nti obeso highlight one say in this case so kwa it was say omo yi nyoma ni nyina free ho elisted the part of the house no and I say you still assume say whatever comes no you will get.
So don't assume and I make no it's be beer wo no washing machine, the stove, fridge. It has to be listed in the contract. Everything biano, it has to be listed. Don't assume say nipa kono or the bema. Ubetime no be on carry, right? Ebi nipa kono on listed, ebi also won't share and our kwa ebi also jama. But to do your due diligence to make sure say all those things, everything that you want, no, is listed in the house. Of course, be nyama be to say TV and I say bed ni sa nyama and the nipa kono and one personal and property. I need those things that they own to me, and you can't ask for you can't ask for those things. But things that are connected to the well-being of the house, you know, any of those things in there. Please don't assume say the person is going to leave it for you. Make sure say who real estate contracts now it's in, and like you're saying, if not, and then you can't go to. If you go to court, the first thing the court is going to ask for is say mortgage agreements no one. Yeah, the banner says it's not listed in it now. The person has won, or you have no case.
Wow. Okay. Wait so the just say wait to my other answers questions are. I say I lost my earnest money, but I still don't get it up till now. The realtor took me to several places, all those houses. I didn't like it. And later on told the realtor I'm not interested in anything again. And I end up losing the money because she told me I cannot have that money back. Was it right or I can still fight for it?
And so I don't know additional details, but Ernest, it's no or she share different houses.
Yeah, almost several houses, but the bien one in Niger. I know later decided say the woman in the ope inti on that crown call with the deal again. But Nisika I could do more than that. Until we lose that money, you know.
The earnest money is per contract. What you say? So it's one house, one earnest money. So I don't know the details of the case, but it's not possible say unless nipa kone treke in it. And then that's the other thing too. Some more real estate agents are read the person's reviews, okay? And yes, say ABI, even if somebody recommended the person to you, Crampona, call Google, not check your reviews. What are people saying about this person? Because the earnest money, is one earnest money per one real estate contract or one mortgage contract. It's say, oh, but me dina. I have my contract, and then you put the earnest money for my house. It doesn't make sense, say, you unless say ABI you had different earnest monies for all the 6 houses that you went to look for. It just doesn't make sense. And I'll say unless say ABI real estate agents like I say mami 5,000 na me fanye earnest money amount, but it's not. I don't know the details, the full details, but it doesn't make sense and it's not right. It's not right. Earnest money is for one application. Into once you do that earnest money now, it means you are committed to buying that house. If you are committed to buying that house, there's no need to even go and look for other houses. Say what I say. Yes. Because what's signing to my house, say, and our mom is our commitment fee. Why are you going to look at other houses? Say what is our 4,000 at her amame say, me dying now, then you shouldn't go and be looking at other houses. Share other house. That's the open one. I can say I'm not giving you that money back because you already committed to me, say, a meme house. And I will better. And I hope that brings some clarity. And I say that makes
Yeah, little that I know. No, before the NS that means say, I don't just why inspection every. Now I come to agreement say, yeah, pay because usually inspection yeah when the issue no be another do now on pay. It's a inspection yeah, and
no, you put the
you put the NS money first. Also, me pen put NS money no, but so when you can so pay, on to me NS money.
Yeah, and
it took your motion if you need.
Debbie Nana, NS money in the time I over far right and my sign that agreement, you know.
Yes.
That's what sign agreement.
Yeah, and so crowd of Moko Shadai.
The boom first can't go what sign say.
Yeah.
Before say Ubenya answer. It's you know, Mako Shadana, that doesn't mean say also pay and so on pay. It won't mean you say NS money no.
Nana, Francis, the old beside there. Money deposit scanner first.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Because usually when Kadia or say NS money never ban. What share you me pay? No, I think no more contract not to soon. No more this cannot bro. It's a local usually na ha and call a rate and now friends you for lawyer no. Tax for the call.
Yes, after the way after the
one sign contract be so to be there. Hard so beating on fancy can.
Yeah. Do we any nyadi over to me and back?
They be what I am thinking, let's say the person signed, paid and put that NS money amount and say, okay, maybe I make you $3,000. The money was held and everything. And it be a last minute on no back out say, men pay dino ebium.
Yes.
What I say. But like I said, no, there are certain clauses that you can't back out of. Want to me, Uncle Country be said, because I don't want your house again, I want my money back. No. Like I said, we say home inspections, inspections, and then they find something wrong. Based on that, no, to me, I can say, I want my money back. And I said, there's another one, the HOA. And also, so if the HOA, they don't give you the documents that you need, based on that one, so you can say you want your money back. But to me, Enko committee with one person, and then go and look at other houses, and then decide, say, Justin Pakona has already started the process with you, and then decide, say, for some reason, you've changed your mind. Depending on how far that they are in the process, no, and then down to the seller to me using a discretion, right?
Yes.
They will go by the books and say, me because if you are 2 or 3 months, you know, I was in the process, like I said before, no, I held the house for you, right? Now, also because okay, so time now me hold the house for you, no, I could have sold my house
to somebody else.
Compensate myself, no, that's what the earnest money is for, to compensate myself, no. Me fasikano, and I make an obey to me, because to me, I say, 2 months the cramp on me, charge your account because we waste time. It's in BB I wouldn't even fight it. If you know, say you changed your mind, you wouldn't even fight it because what they call courts the person can even add additional charges to it if you are basing on the fact, say, I don't like the house. But then again, I don't know, I don't have all the facts and the details, but based on what you are saying, that's my answer.
Wow. Margaret up here. Okay, I'm saying your time in me questions in the able said we be nyata no wrap up my one. We say okay, seller assistant cost, closing cost no. Is it automatic? So obey me request it and I say obey me refuse you. That's one question. Another question so I say the home inspection. Say house in a newer. Can you ignore the home inspection?
Home inspection, so the first one is say closing costs, no, is it automatic to It's not automatic. You have to ask for it. Or when you read the contract now, right?
Yes.
Read the contract now. It's going to state whether it will say seller assist. Usually there's a checkbox into Rebecca. Into don't assume. Into Okona say there's no checkbox and actually anywhere. Don't assume say seller no nebetia. Anywhere ube bisa. Sometimes even after the fact, no, sometimes it can be say it's not in, right?
Yes.
But ABR on the home inspections never. Not BB, and I said contract is all about negotiations, okay? Nothing in the contract is final. In a way, it's not over till it's over. It's sometimes company there might not be closing costs in it, and it can always be modification. You can do modifications. Real estate contracts you can do modifications many times. So they're fine till everything is done. Sometimes the company the closing might not be in, right?
Mm-hmm.
But ABI a dino. yeah, inspections, maybe you who say BB heater, I say 20,000, right? Maybe
Yes.
I 10,000. Heater now, it will feel say 10,000, right?
Yes.
It's over to me, the seller, and I can say, okay, we hit an inspection by, you see, heater, I say, ain't what dear, me 10,000, 10,000, no, me the very repair heater, no, into one so no, pay for the closing cost. Okay, so you can always renegotiate. So if it's not automatic, you have to make sure. If it's not, it's some will put it in, and then it depends on the market. Last year, the market was a seller's market. No, a lot of people know closing costs. No, almost say buyers. You say buyers now name here, but you see our houses of prices now ever down now. Nyama interest rates are high. No, it looks like right now, no buyers have more leverage. It is a we reading that anymore. You can ask for it. Even if it's not in, that's a later on along the line, we really say a dime we may work out who too much. You can also renegotiate, talk to your real estate agent, or the real estate agents will talk to each other, and then they can include that. The other one was home inspection.
Observe a house in any that old and newer. Can you ignore the home inspection?
So you're saying if you buy a new house, can you ignore a home inspection?
Yes.
I would not advise that. Because at the end of the day, why would you want to do that? And then the home inspection is for your benefit, right? Even if it's a new house company, at the end of the day, you don't know who built it. You don't even know the materials that they use. You don't know whether it's gonna last. You don't know whether it's durable. And you don't say, oh, a new house, into me near home inspection. The home inspection is for your benefit. It's if you are a buyer, pandia, I would advise you whether it's old or new now, irrespective, do a home inspection because it's for your own protection.
The same thing. I'll come back again. You tried 500,000 home inspection, $500. You avoid it. It's yeah try to sad yeah you enjoy. You tire sad in the pie, especially your community And you knew $500. So tried maybe 300,000. It's in you're making sure the sign money there, sign marketing getting high. Second contract here you say no because I didn't hear but when my finances go on my contract you say baby no na I saw kon we hwe nyi we say reduce you other face financially because especially sir earnest man you say we mistake we betimi assess you aka munya sir abrofi bi obessess you apart from sika no befa obessi you big time between the work back part here make sure say you take care of sanya man.
Yeah, so like Nana is saying maybe a home inspection we bet $500 keke need to know. ABA, you are just willing to rate that because of $500 obetia. Maybe it should be cry our dining why ever cost so 40,000, but because you didn't do home inspection, you miss out on that. And then after no bet not dining one, not every month you are spending an additional $6,000, $7,000 every year on repairs on Sanya just because of $500. Sometimes you have to count your losses and I say you have to weigh the risk there. $500 where you may risk, is it really worth an additional $10,000, $20,000 down the future? And then 1 year so next time and you don't get it repaired, next time who will be torn down somebody will not want to buy it. You'll find it hard to sell it. In say be a home inspection 1 year there was a foundation issue 1 year. Not the next person, but no who said there's a foundation issue. Because a mentor, buyer number 2 baby mentor, buyer number 3 baby mentor, buyer number 4 baby crampo. If you're no crampo to me about half the price you are asking for. And then you lose so much money just because of $500. It doesn't make sense.
Wow. Ebenezer, a free fire more. You were more questions, but I'm going to pick it 3 above na ko wrap up on my for a time no. Well, one and one had obisa say the insurance benefits about the employment contract and insurance benefits after say for instance be a uniho and I say wage jumana. How do you retrieve it? And I say o family bit me retrieve o benefit a jumanim.
Okay,
that's
so
why.
this one thing I'm also going to talk about. The insurance benefits so who jumana call the HR. And to make sure that's one thing Ghana for we are very bad at. Or the way you see there's a saying that says that when you're leaving a place, close the door gently. And then the new place that you're going to open the door cautiously. it's very important. Say, who leave you a company, and no matter what's your grievances, no, always make sure say you leave on a good note. I'm up for the they just don't show up. No call, no show.
So called Ghana.
Yes, no call, no show. My grandfather died. And then, just little lies. My grandfather died. And then that's it. You leave. You don't call them back to say, Mejaye Jumano, or not say they don't have your follow-up information, nothing. Speak the truth. Where Jaye Jumana? Tell them, say, Mejaye Juman, I've found something else. I'm moving on to new opportunities, right?
Yes.
And then there's something to that. It's called an exit interview. That one is also meet with your HR. This is the point where they give you all this information that you need in terms of saying insurance, PT or no time now. So my question to that is reach out to the HR when you're leaving the company now. Make sure you have the HR's information. Make sure you have their email address so you can always contact them, and then leave on a good note. If you are leaving the job, put in your 2-week notice, if whatever, let them know, and then don't just do no call, no show, or then don't just say, I'm going to Africa, and then you just leave the job like that.
Wow. Okay. Well, you might know what my more, I wish I could have more time. Okay. Where should you see? How do you look for the red flags? The red flags in the contract?
That's a broad question. I'll say that's a broad question, and then that's a good question. But what I would say is that based on all the things that we have learned today, when you're signing an employment contract now, I already said some of the things that you have to look out for: the job description, the time, right? How long you're expected to work for, the insurance, the benefits. When assuming I get an employment contractor, right? Based on what I've learned today, when I pick it up, those are the first things that I look out for. Into say, employment contracts, there's nothing about bonuses, right? It's missing data. Ask, right? Employment contract, now there's nothing about the number of hours that you are supposed to work at. Ask. And I make kind of the same to real estate contracts, and so there are certain things, closing costs. So I wouldn't say red flags, but red flags in terms of certain things that are missing in the contract. Into what should be a home inspections, it's not really clear. And closing costs and shedding any whole finances, and shedding any whole is missing. Now those are some. So it's just my answer is just depends on the type of contract. And also, signing contractor, you can always Google what do I need to look out for? So what are the things that I need to pay attention for? Or what are the terms and conditions in an employment contract? Into what corner already, you have an idea of the things that you have to look out for. But my red flag in a contract to be a contract that they are pressurizing you to sign, right?
Yes.
It be a car contract, and then it's a be na nipa corner or sign it be ocean dimina not just say opesa who read the crampuna or mau time in ready and also or catch us sign up. To me, that would be a red flag, right? That'd be like, why are you rushing? So that's something like that would be a big red flag for me.
Wow, we might know my lesson, pa. I'm up for beside number, but I think I'm better my reaching the true Nana Barfi, but in the number I ever to see yeah, more reaching Nana, true Nana answer. Said if yes, you so answer ya kunya mention, it was Father Nasso, I said, when you know, we free consultation or some Sunday bill, Bramo, what even in Casa free. And Nana number no, or yeah, made it better so, na wa, opposite. Ofreno nana number ni 703-981-1910 703-981-1910 we legal matters nti ofrena na obema we oyema ki your questions more by your time nti ti beja more few minutes na wa wrap up am ene the odi eni nyina na chese yeti meja masofo.
Thank you. Nyamishamu bebre. Nyamishamu, I enjoyed doing this. And then all the questions I'm also more buying it. So they were really good questions. And like we said, the main aim on our goal of this one this presentation is things that we should be mindful of. I like how honest you were with your questions. It'll be to me beside say, they be who contract lesser and that's who let's see on TRC, that's it makes me so happy because these are the type of questions that we want, and these are the things that we want people to be mindful of so that people do not take advantage of us. So the first we learned about contracts, but I should have started with a definition of the contract. It's a agreement between private parties that is enforceable by law. So the basic elements of the contract, let's say it has to be legal, right? It has to be legal and a mutual assent. Also, both people agree, say, we are going to do this, and then it has to be offer and then acceptance. It's an offer, say, may you say, now also what accept it, and then there should be consideration. That means there's some kind of monetary value, and as a CKB, there's some form of payment account. And so yeah, real estate contracts, and you can say, purchase a house, and I say, house, contingency clauses. That's the main thing that you have to look out for. Into contingency, and say, or say way happen, answer way happen. And that the main contingency clauses now, financing. Into you will earnest money, no enable interest rates. So make sure say a BBA will be to me for the earnest money. So we told you why into say I will your contract now we earnest money now. You be careful, say me the 6,000 say me back it out, and if I want able to me a keep money, no. Not only will they keep the money now, on to me to me also for additional charges. The other thing I trying to say a seller assist no, and then just say if you seller never bois. Seller no be for closing costs, and I say closing costs also utia. And if you're reading the contract, then you say any man so now we be start. The other one and so you're trying to say your home inspection, and I make just say home inspection. Usually, want to me just back it out of a contract like that. But home inspection is one of the things that will be to me engineers for the engineers, so will be to me a free contract anyway. Any big issue be and I say foundation issue be and I say because sometimes can say a dime we may pay. But if you are not change your mind, to me if you see something on the home inspection, make me say me change, so I'm wrap it up. And closing date, and now we are sale of existing homes. So dying for so an officer we see and also so before I will be moving and so that's something to look out for. Yeah, salaries, no benefits, or your employment contract. So the time, how much, negotiations, make a share. Say if it's 50 or 60K, do not be afraid to negotiate. Always go for the higher amount. Holidays, sick leave, and so Christmas time is also will be starting move it here and I say or say me and me use my time. It's here restricted events so no yejuma will baby wow say if you yejuma McDonald's and men call you or Wendy's and those were just examples. And leasing and so the things you have to look out for who a lesser is, who a lessee is, who rent, how you can back up out of the rent, security deposits and so on. Nyama say yes. I'm saying hanumni na yendru, but I hope say today has been very informative and educative for you all.
Wow, ohima nyamin shall be brave and then one my tough education. When he say Ubi Abasu be Weniaji, when he said Brenna Mamma and someone questions nibi or mana, what Dika can wash him that entina, and he has said maybe sentina, maybe sanana. But when he said yeah, Messi be later on. In your chance we can come back to that. When it's over and then your pack or your rest it's an employment contract new in album. We're so wonderful. I was surprised. Wow. What can in album, but what to me I and then my auntie when you say another time you be share you be to make come was him or him on your mission be brave and no time. And Nana also in your mission and the bra when you're my community. No, utim say enyomo bebrum contract no bebru aye hu ye call left ni ye call right enti ye nyekura ne ye ne ye say no sign ha na ukọ so ne wanya butre achirechiri ni nyine mu amaye nyame hira o hema mi say nyame yaduma next week ye ne na ebe sign ahia nyame hira bebru bye yo tiefo ye ne nana Barfi Patrik na ya Barfi no and educational financial educational program no or the ebrey and necessary my different tekra or me nya our contract education and so aka ho menin se wa yinhira yenso ye yinhira nyamishira so nya brebe kan ho se nyumi si no anten kan na financial peace education yenu Patrik na ya Barfi edebrey on Tuesdays no aha ene edumba be see
How am I? Oh yeah. So fame, yeah, on Bessie,